Maddie Regent, welcome to the podcast. We're just talking about the cold and the just waiting for spring. So, are you a
Yes.
springtime person? Like, are you like the warm weather?
I mean, I like a mild weather. Like I don't like it to be too hot. I don't like it to be too cold. I like to wear a light sweater. Um, yeah, I'm not for the extremes
Yeah, temperate
for sure.
weather.
Yeah,
Well,
it's my
mentioning
ideal.
that, like, so you're originally from Canada. Which part
hmm
again?
I'm from Toronto, so East Coast, born and raised, and then I moved to New York when I was 18 for college, and then I just never left.
Gotcha. And what's kind of been keeping you there? Is it work or is it also music? Because I assume you have a full-time job, but you do music on the side, right?
Yeah, I mean the goal is to have music be the full-time job, of course. But but yeah, I went to school here for I started in musical theater, transferred to film. And so I do editing and um but has kept me in New York is just that I love it. Like it's always been my dream to live here. So I think going to school and then being able to stay um has kind of just been everything that I've always wanted because it's definitely like my speed. I'm like kind of type A. I like the busyness. But I just moved from the East Village to Williamsburg, which
Mhm.
is like just across the river, but it's a little bit less hectic here
Mhm.
um for me. So, but I just love it here.
So how many years now are you going on living in New York?
I think like almost 10 years.
Wow. So you've really stuck it out.
How crazy. I know. It is this thing of like sometimes in the summer I'll be like I just need to go see some nature, but I'm always itching to get back. Like it
Mm,
just is this, you can't really it's just the most convenient city.
hmm.
So,
Yeah.
especially if you like the arts and just, there's every concert's here.
Yeah.
There's a convenience store in every corner,
Yep.
like that's important to me. So, yeah.
Well, I guess I'm curious. This is a good segue to kind of start with. You've been doing music from what I understand, 2021 was when you started to release stuff.
hmm
So how has New York kind of been uh, uh, I mean, you can tell me if it's a good one or not, but I assume like how has it been like a good launching pad for your career in music?
I mean, just like the people here, the artists here, it's definitely inspiring. The ability to collaborate with people, kind of for everybody comes to New York. Um, Also just like being able to, like I said, go to a bunch of shows. Like so many smaller artists come here too, not just the big ones. And so like I can really, you know, not only like support my peers, but just really get into the music like culture here and learn from them.
Hmm.
Um, that's really been like a big thing in terms of creating my sound and figuring out how I want to do it, and keeping me motivated. Um, yeah, and then New York itself is inspiring. Just there's so much going on. Um, and yeah, like I definitely could have, done it anywhere, but New York, I think just helps keep me motivated because there's kind of no choice but to keep going because everybody around you is also hustling and trying to achieve their dream as well. So there's that kind of air is inspiring
Mm.
for sure.
Is there any like is there any like one particular moment or interaction that has just like inspired a specific song or like an album? Well, I mean, you have your debut album is coming out later this year, which is so exciting.
hmm
We're going to talk about that more. But is there one specific like crazy interaction that you've just instantly turned into a song or just like inspired like songwriting or anything that you can think of?
Um, Definitely like, you know, I mean, probably like the craziest thing is my boyfriend who I make all my music with now. Like our first date was actually, I didn't know it was a date, but it was like a writing session and we wrote like a breakup song and that never ended up getting released, but that just like was like we still kind of have it and we like joke around about it that like maybe we'll put it out someday, but um that's like was just a weird moment to like write about with someone that you don't really know.
Right.
And now we know each other so well. So um and then we like didn't write again like together again for 2 years after that. And then we started making music together. So it was kind of like a random moment, but um he was yeah, one of my first collaborators in the city
Mm.
randomly. So that's like always a weird like song moment
I just can't get
that
over the
happened.
fact that you wrote a breakup song on your first date. Like,
Date.
wouldn't that be like really bad, like manifestation in a way?
Well, I mean, it was one of those things where it was like, oh, I really like your music. Like, we should write together. And I was like, yeah, for sure. Like, I'll write with you. And then we met up, but just yeah, like he was like, "Do you like wine?" before, and I was like, "Oh, interest, okay." And then
Oh, that's this kind
I
of
was like,
session.
"Oh,
Yeah.
okay, cool, yeah." And yeah, like it was, we just I don't know, sometimes like the most extreme emotions are the easiest to tap into. So he was just like coming out of a breakup. I had like sworn off men for like 2 years.
Mhm.
So we were kind of just like, what's present in our mind, even like as we were getting to know each other. And sometimes that's just kind of like bonding over that maybe brought us closer. I don't know. But it was definitely very interesting for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, so you still work together, right? Like, did he help with a lot of these? We're going to talk about these tracks
Yeah.
that you've put out recently, but was he a key person with, a lot of the music that you're still putting out?
Yeah, I mean, he's my producer now and like my main co-writer. Like this album specifically, like we moved in together like a year ago and we have a home studio in like our second bedroom.
Hmm.
And that's just kind of, we sometimes would just wake up and just do stuff in the studio, like he's yeah. And it was definitely not forced, which I think was key. Like we both were artists and doing and wanting to do our own things.
Right.
And even though we like met and wrote a song, we like actually didn't write anything together for a long time after that. Cause we were just like, we're just gonna keep things separate. And so yeah, that it just kind of happened naturally that we started writing together. And my last EP was like a collection of songs we had just made. And then this album was like from the beginning, we were like, okay, we're gonna do like a full project, knowing
Hmm.
it's gonna be a full thing from start to beginning, from start to end. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
I'm sure that's like a whole other mindset. Because like you said, you've released two EPs from what I'm seeing.
Hmm.
So this is your first full-length album, like you
Yeah.
mentioned. So how is that process different? Like you said, you already knew you wanted to do a full-length project.
Yeah.
So how is it, I assume there's more songs. That's an
Yeah.
obvious thing. But what was really
Um,
like the major difference for you in putting out an album versus like a shorter project like an EP?
Yeah, I mean, well, the EPs were just kind of collections of songs that I made kind of during a period of time that
Hmm.
I was like, I want to put these out together. And they all have like a similar vibe, but the album was really like the first song we made was I think You Could Break My Heart, which was like the second song I released from
Hmm.
it. And that was like I was like, oh, okay, like I want to make an album that like now we're not in like I mean, we're technically in a bedroom studio, but we have like a lot more gear invested and like we have a
Hmm.
lot more things to play around with. Like I want to really start and like make these songs with the intention of like creating kind of a story and a theme, not just like musically, but narratively in a way.
Yeah.
So that was like the biggest difference was every song. Um, we kind of had in the back of my mind, like I had in the back of my mind, like how I was gonna fit it in. Um, so yeah, and I really like doing it that way now. Like I think I don't know if I could um do it any other way. Like I just yeah, it was really fun.
it just happened,
Yeah,
out of thin
yeah,
air,
yeah,
clearly.
yeah.
Well, speaking of that song, you could break my heart. It's one of the songs that you've released ahead of the
Yeah,
album, which On the Phone with My Mom is the name of the album. That's coming
yeah.
out May 16th. So
Mhm.
congratulations. It's very
Thank
exciting.
you.
The most recent song you put out is Turtleneck,
Yeah.
which I am very curious to know. Was there a specific reason for you dropping it on Valentine's Day, or did it just kind of line up with the dates and whatnot?
Um, when we were looking at the dates, I was like, I just feel like Turtleneck was one of the most fun to write because we kind of started as a joke. We like joke around like we don't really write love songs together, and or like we do, but it's not, we don't really like it'll come eventually, but
Yeah.
um this is more like a song about yearning, about like I was like envisioning my like college self alone on Friday night being like I should text him, like even though I shouldn't, but just like alone, like not wanting to be alone. And I don't know, I felt like that kind of maybe related to Valentine's Day um in a way. So we felt like that was kind of like a nice, it aligned well.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a love song, but it's about being down bad, I guess.
Right. Well, I'm also
So
curious where, so I mean, I can date myself because I don't mind, but I haven't heard anyone reference an Etch a Sketch in a song in a hot minute. Honestly, maybe ever. And I'm born in the late 90s, so like early 2000s, baby.
yeah, same.
Um, so I was like, oh my God, like an Etch a Sketch. I was like, so does this like, are you like a fan? Did you have one
Am I a fan?
like growing up? Like, I don't know. I was like, who references
Am
an
I a
Etch a
fan?
Sketch? But I was like, this is great. I haven't heard that. And like the comparison of scratching it out, I was like, wait, this is really clever.
That I have to say, that was Cade. He definitely was like, etch a sketch. I'm doing an outline of your face. Because that to me is just like crazy behavior. Because I don't know, like I do not remember ever using an etch a sketch. So I have one. I literally have one like right on my shelf here because I got one because I was like in my head I was like I'm gonna write turtleneck like in the etch a sketch for like promo. It is so hard. Like I was sitting there, I
It
was like, how is
is.
this like a is this a kid's thing? Like I was so confused. So I still have it. Maybe I'll figure it out. But that just yeah, it came up because we just thought like it first, the I liked the image of like someone being so obsessed and just like
Hmm.
drawing, so talented that people that do that for sure.
Yep.
But yeah, that was just like an image that I just thought was cool. And then the idea of like shake, shake, erase, like I
Hmm.
loved. So yeah, it definitely wasn't like I'm a huge fan of Etch a Sketch. I need to put it in a song, but now like I might become obsessed because I feel like now I need to figure out
Right.
how to at least write turtleneck in it or something. But
Right.
um
Could be a good
yeah,
video concept. Like it.
that's I know that originally wasn't my plan, but I was like, this is gonna take over my life. This is so difficult. I have no patience for this. So we'll see.
Wow.
It'll be my side thing.
I was like, talk about a blast from the past. I can't even remember the last time I held an Etch a Sketch. I'm like, do they even still make them anymore? But you said you bought one,
I got it
so
off Amazon for $10.
that's
Came
crazy.
overnight. Yeah, it was like right to my door. I was like, wow, this
That's
was
actually insane.
a still a thing.
I might have to. I have like no patience either, but I'm always looking for something to like occupy my time besides scrolling on TikTok. So,
Could be good. I mean, yeah, like it's similar to like a Rubik's Cube-ish. Like you're just
hmm,
like, but
yeah, I love it.
it was
So I
so
want to
funny.
talk about some of these other songs that you've put out ahead of On the Phone with My Mom. Going back to You Could Break My Heart, like, so the songs that you have put out, I feel like that one's probably, I could argue, the more like most vulnerable one. Like some of
For
the
sure.
lyrics I have in front of me that I really, really like. And maybe I would say thank you. You're referencing in one part. And
Hmm.
I was like, that's really deep and like kind of double edged there because it's like,
Hmm.
you're literally giving someone the ability to crush you, but at the same time, it's like a release, like
Hmm.
that's like, how did that song kind of come about?
I think, in a way, I feel like it can kind of be romantic to be like, I'm giving you, like, I'm just going to submit to my feelings for you. You now have my heart and you can do what you want with it. And if you choose to break it, I'd say thank you for even entertaining me for a while, like that kind of energy. Um, so like the first line we came up with when we wrote was the first line, which was you could break my heart if it meant you would hold it.
Hmm.
So like um I just liked the drama. I thought um again, yeah, like lots of imagery to like describe that feeling of the scariness of falling in love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and writing it with my partner was very interesting too because we're like also like kind of relate to this. Like you could
Yeah.
totally, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, so it just was playing around with that idea of,
Yeah.
yeah, being so open that like, but also not bitter about it because
Mm-hmm.
if you're lucky enough to love someone and be in like a good relationship, you know,
Yeah.
you're,
You're like, why
be,
not? Might as
yeah,
well.
exactly.
And then my next question with that song was, we're getting advice from Deirdre. Is Deirdre your mom?
Okay, this is the craziest thing. So Deirdre is a reference to my therapist, okay, who has a
Oh,
name that starts with a D, but
okay.
I didn't want to name drop her. So
Yes.
I was like, we're gonna do Deirdre. And then Kate and I were like, let's like do some research on like Deirdre. Like, are there any famous Deirdres? Like, how can we like make tie this in?
Mm-hmm.
And so we look up Deirdre, and apparently in like Irish folklore, there's a Deirdre who I think was like born and this prophet was like she's going to be the most beautiful woman in the world and she's going to start wars because of her beauty and break hearts and all this kind of stuff, and this king captured her and then she like ran away with this prince who she truly loved, and then
Yeah.
the king was like we have to go get her but make sure she's still beautiful or else we're not going to kidnap her back. And then she was still beautiful and they just like it,
Yeah.
there's this whole lore. And so I was like, okay, Deirdre has gone through some stuff. That makes sense
Yeah,
to
it
like this
fits.
feels like it fits. And that kind of with the lines of like, you may be ugly or you may be dead, but not ugly and aged, like that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the drama. Like I definitely, especially with this song, was just, yeah, it was all little scenes. About love, about being a woman in love,
Mm-hmm.
about the pessimist kind of talking, and then like, oh no, but it's okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I can
because
handle it.
there's this other line too that I wrote down, like you may be hurt, but you're seemingly unfazed. And I'm like, I feel like, and I was gonna ask, like, how do you typically handle or have handled heartbreak? Because I think that like reflects, trying to be strong or trying to put
hmm
on a brave face, but we all know like we're dying on the inside.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's like the story of my life is like my a word that like I'm not allowed to say anymore is it's fine. I'm fine because
Mm,
it's just like I- just what I would always say. So that kind of fit too because I mean, even though the song is about I'm gonna let myself fall in love. It's also not high in the fact that it definitely would break me and I would have to be on the phone with my mom for like ever to like get over it.
hmm
And um yeah, so yeah, that line definitely refers to me like white knuckling everything that is uncomfortable and
Yeah.
hurtful.
And you did
So
just bring up the album title, so I assume that was kind of an
yeah.
inspiration for the whole project, is, your mom kind of being a resource with you or like helping you through these really tough times.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot about I think like album I kind of think of like a transition from girlhood to womanhood, like what it's like
Mm,
to like be experiencing all of this. And I think when the album's out it might make more sense kind of that transition, um and how when we're girls like we don't want to be girls, we want to escape it, and then like
mm,
as a woman you're like I don't like this is also like yeah, it's hard to know where you fit in society. And so my mom kind of relates to that because you learn from your mom, and
hmm
they're not perfect either, but I'm lucky enough that she's been always picks up the phone
yeah,
while I'm dealing with stuff that she also probably dealt with and is still dealing with her own stuff.
right.
So that just kind of felt like a good, interesting title and like way to describe
hmm
um growing up.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I think
Yeah,
that's really nice that you have that dynamic with her, because
for
even
sure.
as you still navigate adulthood, you could just be
Yeah,
like, "Mom, what the fuck? Like, how do
right.
I do my taxes? How do I buy a house?" Like,
Like, yeah, exactly.
it's just crazy. Shout out
Yeah.
to all the moms out there.
Yeah, moms, all the supporters, people, sisters, for anybody who will pick up your call
Hmm.
and listen to you. I think that's really important.
So how do you think this album differs from your previous work that you've put out? Is there something that is like noticeably different, or is it still kind of in the same vein of your style? Like, tell me a little bit more about that.
Um, it's definitely more I say more organic in like how it was made and the instruments that we're using. We um You Could Break My Heart. My boyfriend Cade was like, we need a violin on this. We're
Mm,
not gonna find a violinist to play it. He's gonna rent a violin and figure out how to play and edit so that it sounds like we have a whole string arrangement. And that's like the craziest thing about this album is like we have violin, we have sax, we have all these
mm,
instruments, and it's just a result of like playing around with them and um editing them in cool ways. Um so I definitely give him credit for that part of the sound. And then yeah, just narratively, like there's more of a clear story to me. I went through like more of a journey through it, I think.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it's definitely the most vulnerable. Um, and I think what also sets apart is um, yeah, like my first body of work that from start to finish I made and actually saw through, you know? So, whereas like the EPs again were just songs that I had made and had, and I was like, I'm gonna put these out together. Whereas
Yeah.
this, I was like, I set that goal and I had
Yes.
to see it through. So for me, that's what's different. But sound wise, definitely just more instruments,
Mm-hmm.
and a more of an alternative pop sound, I would say, than
Yeah.
my first EP, and then the my last EP was definitely a bit more hyper-ish pop or like more straight pop, whereas this just playing around a little bit more.
Yeah, it's so funny you mentioned that because I listened through your earlier stuff too in comparison to the songs that you put out recently. And there was a couple like artists that came to my mind that I could be like, I wonder if she pulls
Mhm.
inspo from them. So I'm gonna ask you first, like, feel name some of your like musical influencers, and I want to see if we had any similar ones in mind.
Um, Musical influences for like this album or just in general or for past stuff?
Yeah, I'd say like in general.
In general, like I think, and probably Lana Del Rey lyrically
Mm-hmm.
in my most recent stuff. Marina and the Diamonds is like one of my
Mm,
favorite artists.
she's great.
And from when Electra Heart came out and I was just like
Yep.
obsessed,
Yep.
because I love pop music, but I also just love the theatrics and the of it and the character that she created. That was
Yep.
kind of a
So good.
cool, yeah. And so those are probably the major ones. I mean, yeah, I'm curious what you think because I think it's changed through like Charlie XCX is also a huge reference for some of the stuff that I did on my last EP, just with some like
Mm.
glitch stuff. Uh, excuse me. And yeah, I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, for me, it was like the two that came to my mind, especially when I was listening, I think to The Wolf. I was
Mm.
like, this feels like a track from the 1975.
I was just about to say I
Yeah.
was gonna say like they yeah, they're definitely a reference. Also because Cade is like a huge fan of 1975, so like production
Okay.
wise, a lot of inspiration there too. Um, so that's a good one. And
Yeah.
I like that you thought that.
Yeah, it was like it like hit me in the face. I was like, this feels like the 1975. So I was like, I wonder if she like
I
draws
do love.
inspiration from them.
Hmm.
Because that song is like very I wrote like disco meets dream pop. Like
I
it
love
was
it.
fun. Like the words were so fun. Like it feels like Little Red Riding Hood in a way, like, but also like inner
Yes.
demons and all that stuff. Um, Another artist that I guess kind of similar to like some of your earlier work, but also kind of prevalent in these new tracks, that I kind of picked up elements of was Ali X, if you've listened to her.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ali X. I think she's a Canadian or
she
she Australia. Yeah,
is.
she is Canadian.
Yeah. I was like another Canadian girl, I wonder.
She has a song. She has an album, and I only know because the cover, it's like a yellow cover.
Yeah. I can't think of the name of it, but I
Yeah,
know what you're talking about. I
there's
think Super Sunset, actually.
Girl of the Year, yeah, or something. Girl, like her song Girl of the Year, I think it's
Yes.
called,
Yeah.
is like that I'm obsessed with. Like, so that's, yeah, definitely that makes sense
I was
for
like, I
sure.
wonder if she knows that she's also Canadian. I was like, because I feel like
No, I
I won't like generalize, but I feel like, it's almost like a hometown hero type mentality. Like when you know you have artists from similar areas that you're from, you kind of root for
for
them,
sure.
follow them more. So it was like, oh, I wonder, if you kind of kept up with her because she was a fellow Canadian. But it seems like you kind of listen
Yeah.
to a lot of different things.
Yeah, my taste is really vast, but like Toronto, like a lot of artists that come out of Toronto, Toronto really supports its artists. So I,
Hmm.
even though I love New York, like Toronto is also amazing. And whenever there's an art, like I always say, I'm like, do you know that she's Canadian? Do you know that this person's from Toronto? Do you know that? Like everybody, everything. I just need to say
You're a big hometown hero, is what I'm hearing. Do you
it.
get like do you go back often?
I do. I have two younger sisters who
Hmm.
my younger sister just actually moved to New York, so I see her all the time now. But I used to go home a lot more when everyone was kind of there. But now we're kind of as we get older, we're kind of all over the place. But
Hmm.
like I'll go home for Christmas in the summer a lot. I'll go home. Um, I do really like Toronto a lot, and it's like a hour flight
Yeah.
from New York, so it's easy enough. But
And
I
I
would
kind
like to
of
go more.
And I was gonna say, like on that note, like I'm sure like you as an artist have metrics in your Spotify, so you can kind of see where people are listening. But do
Mhm.
you do you get more listeners out of New York or Toronto at this point, or is it kind of split?
Um, I would say it's pretty similar actually. I think like Montreal, I for some reason I've gotten a lot there. But yeah, definitely good Toronto base. Main like a lot of New York. So a lot in London
Hmm.
randomly. Um,
Maybe it's because of that Lana style, like you mentioned, because she
maybe.
has a huge like
Yes. And I
England and the
love
UK like
London.
loves her. So I mean, that kind of
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah. I love London. My other sister lives in London, so
Oh.
but I haven't gone to visit her because that's a little harder. But one day.
I
Yeah.
mean, so I guess all I can say is congratulations on the album.
Thank you.
Can't wait to hear it when it finally comes out. Um, do you want to let people know where they can keep up with you, where to find your music, and obviously what they can expect from the future?
Yeah. You can find me on social media under Maddie Regent, Maddie, very important. And my album will be coming out in the spring. I'll be announcing the date soon. And yeah, I'm just really excited to do more live performances, release maybe some visuals for it, and just share more of the process of how we made it because I documented a lot of the process as well. So
Ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
very
Awesome.
exciting.
Well, I'm excited for you. And when it comes out on the phone with my mom, will definitely one that will ring in your ears. I can guarantee you. Because based off what I heard with these tracks, Maddie, they're really, really fantastic. So
Thank you so
congratulations again on
much.
everything. And thank you so much for coming on. I
Thank
really appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you for having me.